So in preparation for The Bear Season 3, checking out The Bear Season 1 and Season 2, this is a review for the first season. Man, this show is amazing. Excellent in almost every aspect. And that 7th episode is going to stick with me. If you haven't seen it, oh gosh, it's kitchen nightmares galore. It's crazy. The Bear is about Carmi Berzado, hence the name The Bear. Him and his family have been through a very tragic event in their life. Family member has committed suicide, and that family member left Carmi Berzado the restaurant. Carmi is this excellent chef. He demands perfection, not just from others, but from himself, everyone he works with. Why? Because he was the best CDC in the best restaurant in the world. This guy was on top of his game, and he still is. He comes back to his hometown in Chicago to help fix this restaurant that is so dear to him and dear to his family. There's a lot of depth already going into that because of the tragedy that undertones everything, which is why this is not really a cooking show. You're not in here to watch people cook, even though that's a great part of the show. And according to other chefs, it portrays it really accurately. The pressures, the high intensity, and the chaotic atmosphere of everything is portrayed there. It is there. This is like Whiplash meets Uncut Gems times 10. The editing is a huge help to that too, which, whoa, the editing is amazing. I'm a huge fan of it. A lot of quick cuts that help get you into the mind of the character or just help you establish a scene or just the city itself. Whoever made this show is obviously in love with Chicago, and you could just tell, like, it makes me want to visit Chicago. But the editing is a huge part as to why The Bear feels the way it does and why it has this certain tone of stress. The characters are very stressed, and the editing helps the audience just feel it as well. That and the performances. Oh my, there's a reason why the Bear cast swept the performances in the Emmy. All of those awards went to them. Went to Ebon Moss-Bachrach, who plays Richie. It went to Jeremy Allen White, who plays Carmi Berzado. He's the main character. It went to Ayo, who plays a great supporting character. There's a reason for it, man. The performances, it's just so hard to not keep your eyes on the screen. It's so human. It's so authentic. The little stutters that Jeremy Allen White does in his character, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel rehearsed. The touching of his face, those little nuances that make Carmi Berzado very human. It's amazing. These performances should be studied. Episode 1 starts us off with an amazing intro that doesn't feel like an intro. You're kind of just thrown in the middle of this very high pressurized service. This episode is called System, and it just establishes Carmi as a character, as a force of change, and the rest of the restaurant holding him back from that. And he's just trying to bulldoze and pull everyone along with him. Like, no, this has to change. We can make this into an excellent place. This also establishes great human dialogue between the characters, very authentic, very realistic, and that in the background, there's a very big tragedy that you could tell has affected everyone, and everyone's reacting to it really differently. Even little things like Fact mentioning that he tried to go to the funeral and Carmi saying he wasn't even there. Or Richie resenting Carmi for not being there for his family when Richie feels like he's been there for them. It's just such a great start. It's very captivating, and the ending gives a sense that this show is definitely pushing itself forward. It's very progressive in its intentions. The second episode, Hands, focuses on a surprise health inspection, and I thought it had one of the strongest intros throughout all the episodes of season 1. It's a great insight into Carmi's background. Why he demands intense perfection is because so much of it was demanded from him back in the place that he used to work in. I thought it was very insane to see how degrading his superiors were to him, and it's such a great cameo from Joe McHale. So it's gonna stick to your head. And I thought the editing touch in the last bit when he says, you should be dead, was such a good touch, because the camera actually cuts into a close-up of Carmi, just Carmi, and not Joe McHale. So you don't really know if Joe McHale said that or if it's Carmi just thinking he did, like making it up in his own head. I thought that was a nice touch. In addition to this, you also see how Sydney is such a huge asset to the restaurant and to Carmi. You see how Richie is humanized in a great writing scene in a car. And one of my favorite shots of season 1 is a dolly out of Carmi just cleaning the floor. There's a small speck of dirt. There's a stain on the floor that anybody else would have just not noticed. But because he's Carmi and he just has this need for everything to be perfect, he does. And it's just a perfect dolly out of him just scrubbing the floor, and it doesn't go away. And you just stay there with him. And those are great character moments. Again, the editing is quick, but it knows when to hold back. It knows when to let you just stare at this character and what they care about. Great stuff. And obviously in this episode, Cicero is introduced. His performance is really entertaining. I really liked him. Episode 3, Brigade, has nice touches of Carmi going to the Al-Anon meeting. And I thought the best scene of the episode was Sydney and his talk outside of the restaurant, where they're just both being really real with each other, being authentic, and communicating really well. And this whole episode really showcases how a newfound vertical structure in a restaurant business, you know, it's changing a lot of things for everyone. So it's going to be hard for everyone to get at your pace or at the structure that you want really quickly. And I thought it was a really nice touch to showcase that. Episode 4 is titled Dogs. And this is probably the most comedic episode throughout the whole season 1, which brings me to a next point. This is not a comedy show, man. I just said there's a big comedy episode in episode 4, but it's not comedic. The show is very dramatic. It's very tragic. I don't really understand why it's labeled a comedy. Don't go into this expecting a comedy. Don't go into this expecting to laugh. This is a very human, very well written show. But in this particular episode, episode 4, you do laugh more than in the other ones. There are very good bits, and this very much establishes Cicero as a great character. I really like his addition to the show, and whenever he shows up, it's not too much. And obviously in this episode, you really see Sydney's and Tina's development. At this point of the show, man, you just get this sympathy for the characters. There's these great moments where, you know, maybe you think this character is the worst of the worst, but then the show does this thing where it's like, yeah, but this is why. Or yes, but he's going through this. And it's like, oh, it just does those things, man. It's really well written. Episode 5 is titled Sheridan. If you don't know, it's actually titled after Sydney's old catering business. This is a great Sydney episode. You just see how ingenuitive she is, how innovative she is. And there are some great moments of Marcus too. I would say this is the weakest episode for me. Aside from the other episodes, this is the one that really feels like it doesn't move the story forward as much. Episode 6 series, another great intro. And I was so happy to see John Bernthal plays Michael. He just has that big brother effect, and he plays him so well. Again, such human dialogue, such a great intro, man, where it's Richie, Natalie, Carmi, and him being like such a big family. Their connection is very strong. You could see it in the intro. And I thought it was such a beautiful touch that Michael starts the food and Carmi finishes it for him. That was a really nice touch. I really appreciated that. And then the transition to Richie telling that story in the dinner, that was good. Really good intro in this episode. Throughout the whole season, you really see how Carmi's a force of change, Sydney's the one trying to change too fast, and Richie's trying to change less. He's trying to stay to what he's used to. And it's exemplified perfectly in episode 6. I thought this episode really showcased that and put everything in the forefront. By the end, you do get a bit of pacing issue, but you see how Richie is willing to change. It's insinuated that he caught the cops and the gang members that were there on the street, and that's just great character development for him. Episode 7 is one of the best episodes I've ever seen on television. I hope if for anything you watch the series just for this. Just please try to watch this episode. Work your way up to it. It's an amazing one-shot, 20 minutes of chaos, but outstanding. One of the best acting performances from Jeremy Allen White. From everyone. Everyone did amazing. But him, oh, wow. Man, you just gotta be speechless. You have to shut up and watch it. His performance just demands that. And the writing and the cinematography is amazing. Everything has to be rehearsed. This is a one shot, but everything that goes down within this one shot is such a great example of controlled chaos. You get even amazing character moments where Carmi tastes a donut, where he's like, that was pretty good. There's great realistic dialogue. There's little moments Sydney and Richie arguing. Richie's moment with Ibra, where even this little moment, even if it provides a little bit of breathability, it still has to do with the story. It's not just to be a story about Black Hawk Down. It's a story about what Ibra's saying is of different factions trying to do different things. They're not working together. And in the end, it just ends to chaos. And it's just such a great little touch to it. This is an amazing episode. If I were to give this episode a score out of 10, I would give it a 10. Episode 8 is titled Braciole, and Jeremy Allen White proves why he won that Emmy. That monologue is about 7 minutes long, and it is such a great confession and understanding of the character. I did tear up because it's just such a human monologue. I thought it was beautifully written, and I think it should be studied. You get a close up on his face, no cuts, and you get to just appreciate and see all the nuances in his performance, and you forget that this is an act. There are great little moments in here, like reading Mikey's letter. I thought that was really real, and how Richie explained why he didn't initially give it. It felt very human, and I like that this is not a theatrical show where maybe in like a very dramatic show reaching for reactions, Carmi would have been mad at Richie for withholding the letter. No, this is a well-written show, and because of that, Carmi understood, and he was just appreciative of the fact that he even got the letter. Also, little things like in the beginning of the episode, Carmi shouts that his brother committed suicide on a bridge, and the intro of season 1 is Carmi on a bridge trying to tame or calm down a bear that's caged up. I think that's explained now. And those little touches, again, the callbacks are really amazing. There are forwards thrown throughout the show. And obviously, Richie's moment in this episode with Carmi was really, really nice. The only issue I have with this episode is I wish the can thing was explained. How the heck did the money get inside the tomato cans? I don't know. This whole show is a great example of a lot of amazing technical aspects of film, but the story is so strong already. Very, very excited for what's to come. This is an amazing love letter to Chicago and love letter to, I think, dysfunctional and hurting families. The soundtrack also and the music throughout the show, it's just such great music. I really appreciated those touches. Because of all these things that I've mentioned, this first season is an A+ for me. And the main reason why this show is TVMA is because of its language. There is very strong language, people shouting at each other, cursing at each other. There is no gore, there's no violence, except for a small act of violence in episode 7 towards the end. But that would be it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about this review. Let me know what you thought about The Bear Season 1. Catch you guys soon. Bye-bye.